Frank Sheeran's legacy still lingers years after his death, but the story of The Irishman 3 begins with a young journalist digging into old FBI files about the Hoffa disappearance. While most consider it a closed chapter, he senses there are details still left untold. This obsession leads him deep into the lives of the children and associates of the men involved. Every step forward uncovers a trail of guilt, silence, and broken families, all tied to the sins of the fathers. The journalist finds himself entangled in a story where truth comes with dangerous consequences. Peggy Sheeran, Frank's estranged daughter, lives quietly under a different name. She has carried the weight of her father's choices her entire life, shunning the spotlight and burying her past. When the journalist approaches her, she resists at first, but the memories flood back. The silence she has kept becomes unbearable, and she reluctantly begins to share small fragments of truth. Her pain mirrors the tragedy of growing up or a world built on violence and betrayal. For her, breaking silence is not about justice, it's about finding peace. Russell Bufalino's legacy also resurfaces, as his nephews still hold positions in small unions and businesses. They pretend to live legitimate lives, but remain tied to old habits. A subplot emerges as these remnants of the mob try to keep their influence alive, though their power has drastically weakened. Their paranoia grows as whispers of the journalists' investigation reach their ears. They see history repeating itself, where silence is once again threatened by someone hungry for answers. For them, the past is not history, it's a liability. The journalist, named Michael, finds his personal life unraveling as his obsession grows. His girlfriend leaves him, claiming he's too absorbed in dead men's lies. Yet Michael feels more alive chasing these ghosts than living his own life. His search takes him into nursing homes, old bars, and forgotten union halls, where elderly men cling to fading memories. Each encounter gives him a piece of the puzzle, but also reveals the loneliness of men who once thought themselves powerful. What remains now are regrets and stories half-told. Peggy continues to wrestle with guilt, replaying her childhood memories of her father's coldness and unexplained absences. She remembers moments of warmth, too, but they are overshadowed by what she suspects he did to Hoffa. She tells Michael that forgiveness has never been possible, not for her father and not for herself. Her words strike him deeply, making him question whether the truth even matters when pain runs so deep. For Peggy, exposing her father doesn't bring healing, only reopening old wounds. Meanwhile, an aging mob associate named Salvatore finally agrees to talk. He's tired of living in fear, his health failing, and his conscience heavy. Salvatore hints that he knows where Hoffa's body was taken, but insists the truth will only bring more blood. Michael records every word, knowing this confession could change history. Salvatore's words echo like a deathbed testimony, leaving Michael torn between protecting him and publishing what he's learned. The stakes suddenly feel more real than ever before. As Michael dives deeper, he starts receiving threatening phone calls. At first, he dismisses them as coincidences, but the tone grows darker. One night, his apartment is broken into, his notes scattered and tapes missing. The ghosts of the past are not as powerless as they seemed. Michael realizes he's poking at scars that never healed, wounds that still bleed for the men involved. His obsession now puts his own life in danger, just as it once did for Hoffa. Peggy, seeing Michael's growing peril, warns him to let it go. She fears history will repeat itself and another life will be destroyed chasing the truth, but Michael feels a strange sense of duty, almost like he has inherited Frank's unresolved legacy. He believes the silence of the past is poison, and only by exposing it can future generations heal. Yet his determination mirrors the stubbornness that once led Hoffa to his downfall. Peggy knows this path only ends in tragedy. A subplot follows. Hoffa's son, who still wrestles with his father's disappearance, though older and wiser, he has never fully let go of the anger. When Michael approaches him, the meeting is tense, but they share a common wound growing up in the shadows of violent men. Hoffa's son doesn't trust Michael, but he senses the young man's sincerity. The two reluctantly bond, with Michael promising he will bring out the truth, no matter the cost. This fragile alliance fuels Michael's determination further. The FBI, long considered and interested in reopening the Hoffa case, suddenly shows renewed interest. Michael's interviews and leaked notes reach their attention. An agent approaches him, warning that his life is in danger, not only from the remnants of the mob, but from forces inside law enforcement that don't want skeletons unearthed. The blurred lines between law, crime, and politics re-emerge, showing how deep the corruption once ran. Michael realizes the story is bigger than Hoffa. It's about America's history of silence and compromise. Michael's investigation strains Peggy further, as media begins circling her quiet life. She feels betrayed, despite her initial openness. Old wounds reopen, neighbors whisper, and her children learn more than she ever wanted them to know. She lashes out at Michael, accusing him of exploiting her father's sins for his own glory. The human cost of truth-telling weighs heavily, making Michael question whether he's helping or only spreading more pain. But the damage has already been done. Salvatore dies before Michael can get him on official record, but his cryptic clues remain. Michael pieces them together and discovers a site rumored to hold Hoffa's remains. He drives to an abandoned industrial yard, where a sense of dread overwhelms him. Standing on that soil, he imagines the night Hoffa disappeared, the betrayal, the silence, the cold execution. He realizes that even if he digs, the truth may never satisfy those who've lived with loss. Truth feels both within reach and forever untouchable. Back in the city, tensions rise among the surviving mob families. Some believe exposing the past will destroy what little protection they have left. Others see Michael as a chance to rewrite history, to control the narrative. A power struggle brews quietly, with Michael as the unwilling pawn. He begins to notice strangers following him, and paranoia consumes his every step. He's now living the same fear that once haunted Frank Sheeran. The cycle feels endless. Peggy experiences a breaking point. For years, she carried resentment toward her father, but now she feels pity. She begins visiting his grave, speaking to him if he could still hear. Her internal conflict is raw. She wants to denounce him, yet she longs for the father she never truly had. Michael's pursuit of truth reawakens her grief, but also forces her to confront it head-on. In some ways, she realizes she and Michael are chasing the same ghost. Michael finally publishes his story, revealing every detail he has gathered. The piece becomes a national sensation, sparking debates, outrage, and disbelief. While some hail him as brave, others condemn him as reckless. For Peggy, it feels like losing her father all over again. For Hoffa's son, it is bittersweet answers, but no peace. The world now knows a version of the truth, but it brings no justice, only more questions. Michael's fame is short-lived. His career collapses under pressure from lawsuits, threats, and discredited sources. His personal life is in shambles, and paranoia consumes him. In quiet moments, he wonders if he became no different than the men he studied, obsessed, stubborn, willing to sacrifice everything for control of the story. The cost of truth weighs heavier than the lies ever did. He has lost himself in the pursuit of ghosts. Peggy retreats back into silence, refusing interviews and cutting ties with Michael. She watches from afar as he spirals, both pitying and resenting him. In her heart, she knows the truth cannot undo the past, nor heal the pain carried by the children of those men. She seeks her peace not in exposure, but in acceptance. Her journey becomes one of letting go, rather than digging deeper. The story closes with Michael sitting at Frank's grave. He talks to him quietly, almost like a son seeking guidance. His words reveal a man who has lost everything in pursuit of truth. Was it worth it? He asks aloud, but no answer comes. The camera lingers on his tired face, capturing the cycle, of history repeating, the Irishman's ghost remains, not in the grave, but in the lives of those still haunted by him. The film ends with Peggy visiting Hoffa's grave instead of her father's. She places a single flower, a gesture of quiet solidarity with another daughter who lived in shadows. It is not justice, nor redemption, but a small act of human connection across decades of silence. The Irishman's story closes not with violence, but with grief, forgiveness, and the cost of carrying a name tied to blood. The silence remains, but it is finally acknowledged.